Hi, this is Makona Spokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. Today, I want to just deal with things that you cannot measure your ministry calling with. Things that when you have, you cannot necessarily say, this is a ministry calling or this is the height of your ministry calling. So these are the things that we want to speak about today. And I want us to speak about this because it's very important, because there are many people that get confused by some of the things that happen in their life and they start measuring their ministry calling. And sometimes when things like that do not happen in some people's lives, they feel like their ministry calling is not existing. Now, I want to speak about this so that we can understand that you cannot measure your ministry calling by certain things. And the first of the things that I want to speak about today is you cannot measure your ministry calling by the multitudes that you're ministering to or by the number of people that you're ministering to. So there are those people that would minister to a small number of people, and you may find that God called you extensively for those people. And the very same few people that you're dealing with or you're ministering to, they are the ones who are to influence the world. Because remember that as much as you're called for the world, it might be that you're going to minister to a few number of people that would actually in turn minister to the whole world. And this is a very important point to understand, because many of us get despondent or we get discouraged by the few people that we're ministering to and the lack of exposure to big numbers of people. Now, the fact that you're not ministering to multitudes doesn't necessarily mean that your calling is very small, or it doesn't mean that you're not called at all. So ministering to multitudes of people may be the grace that you're given as an individual to minister to multitudes of people at one go. But that cannot be a measure of your ministry. So there are times when God called you intensely for specific number of people, and you may find that this is a few people that you're ministering to, as I've mentioned earlier. But the very same people would be the ones who will impact the whole world. So therefore, don't measure your ministry by the number of people that you're ministering to. Secondly, number of churches one established, because there are times when people go in the spree of establishing churches. And some people are actually establishing churches out of small numbers of people. So one family moves to a certain place and you find that the minister or this particular preacher go and open a branch there or open a church there. And some of the ministers, they are mentioning to you that they've opened so many churches, only to find that those churches are actually consisting of 2-3 members, and they're not actually churches per se. It's just families that are gathering in their own houses, which would mean that can be what we call cottage fellowship, or rather what we call home cells. But then some would call it a church, and therefore they would mention so many churches that they've established, but only to find that they're meaning only small gatherings of people that are gathering in different homes. So therefore, don't be intimidated by people that will tell you that they've opened many churches. But by the way, it is not by the number of churches that you've opened that is a measure to your the level of your ministry. Because some of the people are not called really in a way to open so many churches. The very same church that you opened, one church, you find that God want to use you in that particular church. And you're going to develop people that will take the gospel, even spread it in many places out there, whereby the gospel will touch many people. You may find that the specific number of people that you're dealing with may be gathered in a small number in a certain place as well, until you impact them and you develop them. And these are the very same people that will actually expand your ministry. You find that when you speak about the leaders of your ministry, it's not you expanding it rather, but it's the few people that you've taught and developed, the people that you've discipled in your ministry, and you've developed them into a certain force that is able actually to take the ministry a bit further as well. So this is very important. So therefore, don't measure your ministry by the number of churches that you've opened. That cannot be that way. There are people that measure their ministry by the number of countries one has ministered to. number of countries that one has traveled to minister, and you measure how big or how small your ministry, because you've traveled to many countries whereby they've invited you to come and minister. And that is not a measure of the size of a ministry, because there are those that are actually called to minister locally. There are those that are called to minister to their neighborhoods. There are those that are called to basically to minister to their own communities. And that is a big ministry as well, that can be ministering to the people within your vicinity. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you are called, then you have to travel everywhere. And it's not everyone actually who's called internationally so. So therefore, if you are not called for international networks and international people, don't force yourself to do so because of seeing other people traveling to other countries, because that's not a measure of a ministry by traveling to different countries. So you can be a great ministry but not traveling anywhere. You may be running a very great ministry, but not going internationally at all. So therefore, don't measure your ministry by how many countries you've traveled to. That cannot be either. The other thing is number of heads of state one ministered to. Because you hear ministers have been proud of, I've been ministering to politicians, I've been ministering to ministers in cabinets, I've been ministering to presidents who are heads of states, and therefore people walk around being proud about this. People walk around telling everybody about it because they think that the measure of their calling is by how many heads of states that they minister to. And I want to emphasize it again that it's not everyone who's called to go and minister to politicians. There are those of you who are called for that, and there are those of you who are called to knock at the doors of heads of states and minister to them. But that doesn't mean that somebody who's running a ministry at the corner in their own community, somebody who's ministering to the old people around the community where they are actually not called appropriately by God, or they are called less than you, who is ministering to heads of state. So there's no size of ministry that can be measured by the people that you're ministering to. Ministry is not measured that way. So therefore, please don't be proud of having the grace and the calling to be ministering to politicians or even to heads of states, because that doesn't make you better than someone who's ministering to children somewhere. That doesn't make you better than somebody who's ministering to old grannies and old grandpas around their community. So those are as well called, and they are actually running very crucial ministries as well. There are those that are called for widows. There are those that are called for orphans out there, and they are doing great work and great ministries as well. And the fact that they're not ministering to a president doesn't make them less called by God. They are still very much called, and God can still use them in an area of calling. So remember, our callings are not the same. Remember that we're called in different areas, and we're called for different people as well. So therefore, don't even be tempted to compete with those that are called to minister for heads of states, because if you're not called in that corner or in that direction, so you are going to be missing the mark of the calling of God in your life. So please don't be under pressure that you're not ministering to heads of states at all. Number of famous people one is associated with in ministries, that cannot be a measure of a ministry calling either. So please remember that if there are celebrities, there are people that are well known, people that are famous that are coming to your ministry, that may be part of your ministry, that doesn't make you greater than others. So therefore, you cannot measure the greatness of your ministry by the type of people that are coming to you, by the celebrity status of people that are coming. If rich people come to your ministry, that doesn't make you better than somebody who's ministering to the poor, because that's the service of the Lord, and it goes according to the calling of God upon your life. And as I've mentioned earlier, that our callings are not the same. So please, if you are called for the poor out there, if you're called for people that are not well-to-do financially, so please don't be despondent. Never give up either, because that doesn't necessarily mean that your ministry is less of a ministry. It is still a powerful ministry as you're ministering to people of God out there. Remember, we are servants in the kingdom. Remember, Remember, we are not celebrities because we minister to celebrities. We are all servants of the kingdom of God. And therefore, as we are doing so, we are ministering the gospel to people. And out there, it doesn't matter who the type of the people are. It is only those that God called them for us, or we are called for them rather, to minister to them. So please remember that a calling or a ministering to people that are well known doesn't make you a better called person, rather, more than any other person. Everybody else is still called, even though they don't have many famous people in their ministries. So I want you to know that. Ministry calling is measured simply by ability to identify own calling. Therefore, you need to identify your own calling. You need to know what you're called for. You need to own up that calling and make sure that you operate in that calling. And that's the power of a ministry. So therefore, if you have been able to identify your own ministry, that which God has called you to do, and therefore you effectively accomplish that ministry. You effectively focus and do that which God called you for. And that's the only measure of an effective ministry, because ministries are actually effective based on, are you doing it at the right place, at the right people that you're called for? Are you doing it effectively? Are you committed to do your ministry, and you focus on it and do and accomplish that ministry to make sure that it is done to an extent that one day when you arrive in heaven, God will say, well done, you faithful servant. And that's the bottom line that we need in ministry. It's not the type of people that you minister to. It's mainly because you've identified your ministry and you're focusing on that, and you surely effectively operate in that ministry to an extent that everybody that you're called for is impacted thoroughly because of your ministry. That is very, very important. And I want to end up here. Your host, my Spokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and be part of this great topic. And I believe that you have learned quite a bit. So please like or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please make sure that you also click notification there so that you are notified when we post videos next time. May the good Lord bless you and allow me to say cheers for now.